Continuing our reading in Poppy's Return by Avi, today is chapter 32, The Bulldozer Comes. The bulldozer is coming! The bulldozer is coming! Poppy was chatting with Basil on the back steps when the frightened cry rang out. The two mice leaped up and ran through the house to the front porch. Frightened mice were racing in all directions, squealing, squawking, crying, screaming, and yelling. As they tried to reach safety, they pushed and shoved one another. Some leaped headlong off the porch. The mice in the yard raced away as fast as they could go into the tall grass. Poppy, looking beyond the milling mice, sure enough, the gigantic yellow bulldozer was moving slowly but relentlessly toward the house. "Basil," she shouted over the din, "I need to get Lungwort out." I need to get to my wife and kids," said Basil and raced off. Bucking the flow of the panicking crowd, Poppy plunged back into the house and hurried into the old boot. Lily and Sweet Cicely were already there, trying to get the old mouse up out of his bed. "What's happening?" demanded a coughing Lungwort as he reached for his thimble cap and tried to put it on his head. He managed, though it perched at a lopsided fashion. Where's Poppy?" he demanded. "I'm right here, Papa," cried Poppy. "You need to get out of the house right away. The bulldozer is coming." "Coming? When? Where?" "This very second. It's about to knock the house down." "How close is it?" Lily asked. "It'll be here in minutes. The house is sure to collapse." "Oh dear!" cried Sweet Cicely. "Why must this happen right in the middle of Lungwort's nap?" Lungwort managed to get up, but pulled himself free from Cicely's grasp. "Let me go, drat it! I can move on my own." "Dearest," implored Sweet Cicely, taking hold of Lungwort again, "you really must leave the house." "Never!" cried Lungwort. A mouse goes down with his house. Poppy, why aren't you doing something?" "Papa," cried Lily, "if you stay, you're going to be killed." Who would be mad enough to destroy Grey House?" cried Lungwort. "What does it matter, Papa?" said Lily. "It's happening." Lungwort blinked, as if finally understanding. But, then what should I do?" he cried. "Papa," said Poppy, "listen to Lily. She knows best." Lungwort looked around. She does?" "Yes, Papa." With Lungwort allowing himself to be helped, they all began to move out of the boot. Who is committing this heinous crime?" the old mouse demanded as they approached the front of the house. What terrible beast is doing this? I demand an answer." "Please, Papa," said Lily. "There's no time to talk. We just need to get out of the house." But what will happen to us?" said Lungwort. "This is the only house we have." "You can decide later," said Lily. "Your safety is what's important now." On the porch, most of the mice had already fled to secure locations at some distance from the house. Poppy could see them scattered through the grass, staring with a mix of horror and fascination at the huge bulldozer, which was still moving, though at a painfully slow pace, toward the house. The horrifying vision was made even worse by the spewing of the black fumes and the deafening snarl of the motor. "This way, dearest," Sweet Cicely coaxed as she and Lily urged, pushed, and pulled Lungwort down the porch steps. Poppy, keeping a vigilant eye on the approaching bulldozer, came right behind. Suddenly, she realized she was not seeing a human in the cab. She was so baffled she stopped and stared. The bulldozer appeared to be moving entirely on its own. Lungwort, supported by Sweet Cicely and led by Lily, reached the ground and moved haltingly to safety. As Poppy followed, she stole a look back. No one was coming out the door. It appeared as if the entire house had been evacuated. She turned back to the bulldozer. The great machine was rumbling forward, drawing ever closer to Gray House. As Poppy fixed her eyes on it, she knew with wrenching certainty there was no way it could avoid striking the house. The structure was doomed. Even so, she did not move. Why? She kept asking herself. Was no one driving the machine? As the bulldozer drew ever nearer, Poppy told herself she absolutely must move. She was just about to leap for safety when she suddenly saw a head pop up in the bulldozer's cab. It was Aerith. Poppy opened her mouth in astonishment. The next moment she saw Mephitis lift his head, and there, standing atop the cab's dashboard, was Junior, his red fur a sharp contrast to the bulldozer's dirty yellow color. There being no time to stand there flabbergasted, Poppy raced to the end of the porch and dived into the grass below. Landing awkwardly, she picked herself up, gave herself a shake, ran a few feet, then turned to look back. Every eye of every mouse was fixed upon the bulldozer. The machine struck Gray House, its great blade smacking the structure squarely with a horrendous crunching sound. The porch collapsed. The front wall of the house caved in. Glass windows shattered. In a storm of tinkling, like wind chimes gone mad, the attic floor dropped. The roof buckled. Cedar shingles popped, flying in every direction as if they were wet watermelon seeds. A cracking and snapping filled the air like a fuselage of firecrackers. And over it all, a great plume of dust bloomed in the shape of a blossoming flower. Even then, the bulldozer did not stop. With a shudder and shake and an increased roar of its engine, its exhaust tailpipe billowing black smoke, it pushed on. For just a moment, it seemed to strain, trembling, until, with an appalling, ear-blasting crack, the old house, or the heap that it had been, snapped off its foundation. That achieved, the bulldozer gathered up new momentum and plowed on. The monumentous mass of misshapen house, which now looked more like a gigantic overturned bird's nest, began to slide along the ground, the entire pile heading for the old orchard. The mice, standing in what once was the front yard of the house, watched in awkward silence. The bulldozer was anything but quiet. Roaring, spewing ghastly flames and fumes, it shoved the mangled wreckage up until a great heap went up hard against an old apple tree. There the machine churned and stopped its forward movement. With a final barking burst of noxious fumes, the engine sputtered, gave a terrible shudder, and produced an enormous belch before at last falling into a profound hush. In the absolute silence that followed, nothing, no mouse, no bird, no leaf, dared move. Poppy, having witnessed the entire event, could think of nothing but whether anyone else had noticed what she had, that Aerith, Jr., and Mephitis were in the driver's cab. The answer came quickly. Into the deep and painful silence came Lungwort's bellowing, hacking voice. That machine was driven by a porcupine. Poppy ran for the bulldozer. And that is the end of chapter 32.